Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the Blank Space podcast. Dominic Burgess is our guest today. We are very lucky. He's a British actor, writer, director, and producer whose career spans film, television, and stage. Trained at London's Academy of Live and Recorded Arts on a dance and drama scholarship, he booked his very first professional audition the day he graduated, a role in Batman Begins of all things. His vast list of credits include unforgettable headline role performances in Doctor Who, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, The Leftovers, The Magicians, The Good Place, Feud, Betty and Joan, The Flash, more than one season of American Horror Story, Star Trek Picard, Dr. Death, Palm Royale, and Star Wars Skeleton Crew. And beyond those meaty roles, Dominic's work includes appearances on Better Things, 911 Lone Star, NCIS, Criminal Minds, Our Flag Means Death, The Perfect Couple, Good American Family, Echo 3, Santa Clarita Diet, Modern Family, The Rookie, Side Hustle, Them, Covenant, NCIS LA, Rebel Moon, and Skeleton Crew. And behind the camera, Burgess wrote, directed, and produced the short film Sam Did It in 2017, and he has performed in the Blanks YPF several times. Good Lord, I thought that list was never going to end. Thank you so much for making the time for us.
Thank you, Toks. Oh my gosh, what an introduction. Hi.
Wow, talk about prolific. That sounds exhausting, but very satisfying. How does it feel
I'm
to be you?
gosh, I'm very lucky to do what I love doing. Very fortunate to jump from show to show to show to show to show to show. I don't take it lightly. I'm very grateful to be able to do what I love, to be able to work on so many things that me as a 12-year-old would have been like, oh my gosh, Star Trek. Okay. It's a real treat. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And I'm going to ask a question that only certain people will understand. Who is your doctor?
Oh my gosh, Sylvester McCoy. Sylvester
Yeah,
McCoy
nice.
and Ace. They were my growing up in the 80s and
Yeah.
early 90s. He was my doctor and companion. Ace was my companion. So I was a Doctor Who fan before, that reboot with Christopher Eccleston came back.
Yeah.
So again, I'm a big nerd. So anything genre, I'm on board with. Star Trek, Star Wars, Buffy the Vampire Slayer is coming back, and I've got my eye on that. If you don't mind, um, yeah, all that nerd stuff, I'm deeply invested in.
It's so funny. I think half of the shows we have done so far, our guest has said, I'm a huge nerd. And I think, nerds are sort of taking over. I'm a huge nerd.
Hmm.
So, and one of our last guests was on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the original. So,
Yeah, I feel like growing up when I was going through high school, certainly I would finish my school day and then I'd race home because Next Generation would be on BBC Two at 5 o'clock, and I'd race home, but I wouldn't talk about it at school because Star Trek felt like a very dirty word to talk. Like it felt like, oh no, I like Star Trek, but we don't talk about Star Trek with other
right, right.
people. And now I feel like I don't know. I don't know if that's a part of getting older and you're just like, yeah, I like Star Trek and deal with that.
No, no, no. It
But
used to be that you were a big old dork if you not only liked it but admitted it. Like yeah,
uh-huh.
it made you very, very nerdy. And now it makes you cool because I think the cool people are nerds now.
Yeah, that's right.
They see our value now. They see our value. Out of all of these amazing, amazing roles, if you could pick one, just one, to sit in for a very, very long time, which one would it be?
It would be Star Trek because that was what my heart fluttered for when I was
Mm.
younger. It was shows like Star Trek that made me want to move to the United States because they were the kind of shows that I watched. It was Star Trek, it was Buffy, it was X-Files, it was Twin Peaks, it was all this American programming. And when they announced that Patrick Stewart was coming back at the Comic Con, first thing I did was get on the phone with my manager and was like, Star Trek's coming back and Patrick Stewart's coming back. We have to find a way. And then we found out who was casting it. It was Liz Dean, who was at UDK at the time, and they knew my work through Feud, but I wrote a little handwritten note and I went down there and I wrote a letter saying, oh my gosh, I used to race home from school every night to catch Star Trek The Next Generation. I'll be a sliding door in the background of this show, whatever it takes.
I will be ensign number 35. It's fine.
Yes, please. And then they brought me in and they didn't tell me. I was pacing the floor the night before the audition because I knew that I was an alien species, and my fiance, he's not a sci-fi person, he doesn't watch Star Trek, but I was roaming the floor, driving myself crazy because I was going, well, it's going to read very differently if it's a Cardassian than if it's a Ferengi, than if it's a Klingon, than if it's any of these other alien species, and they won't tell me what it is. And so I don't know what
Oh,
to
but that's
do.
unfair.
And then I got in the room and they were like, it's a brand new species. You can do whatever you want. You're a big lizard. It wasn't the best audition that I'd ever done. There was a lot of technobabble stuff. There was a lot of words that just kept tripping me up. I prepared this role more than any other role that I had ever auditioned for. I was like, God, like, this is the one. I think I put that pressure on myself and it sort of strangled myself because I wanted it so much. And bless Liz Dean and Julie Knapp, they ended up writing this sentence of technobabble on a whiteboard and held it up behind the camera for me because like there were so many words that were tripping me up in this sort of string of sentences. Something like I have 35 million olfactory receptor genes and blah, blah, blah. They kept saying, do you want to take 2 minutes? Do you want to step outside? And I was like, no, I know it. I know it.
Because they
I
knew.
know.
They knew it should be yours.
I
That's
knew. I
why.
know it. And yeah, bless them. And I left that audition. And again, I called my manager and I said, they're never going to bring me in. They're never going to bring me in ever again. I was so terrible. And then we booked it, which is, this
It
is
was
the
probably
business.
a really good audition, but because it meant so much to you, you were being hard on yourself, and they could see that it was good, but then you'd get in your own way, which is probably why they were like, let's just take away the thing that's getting in your way because it's brilliant.
Yeah. And then just, being on set with Patrick Stewart and Jonathan Frakes, who played Will Riker. He was the director of the episode, and he was so warm and ebullient and ran such a lovely, warm set. And I was scared that, you put something on a pedestal and it's not going to live up to that. And the cameras would stop rolling and Patrick Stewart would sit on the couch as we were filming at Universal City Walk, and he'd sit down and be like, so where are you from? Ah, Stoke-on-Trent. I played at the Vic Theatre in Stoke-on-Trent in 1984. And just being in that environment was just so. I rambled so much. I'm so sorry. Star Trek.
No, no, you didn't ramble. We want to hear it. And all the Trekkies out there. Oh, every time I hear someone talk about Star Trek and like someone who loves it talk about it, all I can think is we have Star Trek because of Lucille Ball.
Mm, yeah, 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 yeah.
I don't think a lot of people know that. It's like, no, everyone was like, this isn't going to go. You're nuts. And she was like, no, it will.
Uh-huh.
And
60 years later, it's still going.
she always knew. So, did you ever do anything in England?
I went to drama school from 2001 to 2004 and loved it. I went to the Academy of Live and Recorded Arts, which, rest in peace, doesn't exist anymore. I auditioned for Batman Begins on the day that I graduated.
Crazy.
Baby didn't make the final cut, and that was a big life lesson for him. I took 10 friends to the Odeon in Leicester Square and was like, I'm in Batman Begins. And I knew the moment that it passed, and I sank down in my seat and was like, oh no, I didn't make it. But my name survived the credits, so I still get my little equity, £30 a
Nice.
year. Thank you so much. And then, yeah, I did Doctor Who and a couple of commercials, but London wasn't my town. I had a really hard time getting auditions in London. I found that I would be very lucky if I was getting an audition every 5, 6 months. And again, those nerves come in because you make everything really precious. And oh gosh, if I don't book this McDonald's commercial, I don't know when the next job is going to come
Well, I mean,
along.
yeah, it sort of is precious though. And the thing is
Yeah.
that when you are the kind of person who's doing like, 85 things in a pilot season, it's rote, right? You just like, okay, this is I do this all the time.
Hmm.
It's like with anything else, when you don't do it all the time, you're second guessing yourself,
Uh-huh.
you're tripping over yourself, you're not quite sure if this is right or this is right. It is a little more precious,
Yeah.
honestly, because it's like, well, if I get this, I don't have to work in a restaurant maybe for the next few months.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. I was working at, I don't know if Americans will know it, but I was working at HMV, the music
Oh,
and
which
DVD store.
one?
I was in Wandsworth in South
Okay.
London. I was down in Clapham, Balham, Tooting, that kind of area. And so I did that, and I worked in an estate agents called Kinley Folkart and Hayward as their sort of Saturday lettings boy, and I would just open doors and let people wander around and see if they wanted to lease an apartment. And then, yeah, an audition maybe every 5, 6 months I moved to Los Angeles in November 2007, and it was the writer's strike back then was just kicking off.
I remember it well.
And I met more casting directors in 3 weeks of being in LA than I had done in 3 years of being in London because back then I think things were different then than they are now in terms of people would have general meetings and I
Yes.
found my manager pretty fast and she set up a lot of general meetings and they casting directors had nothing to do other than meet new people. And so I met so many casting directors the first few months that I was out here. And then the audition, once the writer's strike was over, the audition started rolling in. And then I was like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. This is how it's
Yeah.
supposed to be. So it was like whiplash, but I loved it so much because then again, you're busy and I was in class and I got a job at the ArcLight movie theater. So I met a bunch of people really fast and I found a little community. And I know LA isn't for everyone, but I love Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And a lot of that probably goes with the work and because work
Absolutely.
was plentiful, that had an impact compared to living in London. But I love LA and I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, and the money's better.
Yeah, uh-huh. Yep.
A lot
The
better.
British equity pay scale and residuals is not what I think it could be and should be, especially now that there are so many shows filming there that, streaming, big streaming shows like Game
Yes.
of Thrones and the Downton Abbeys and these big shows, like Witcher and all these things that go international that are still paying British equity minimums that,
Yeah.
you
But
know.
if you even look at like things that just become like, for instance, the true crime community, if you look at how many different things like the old, Agatha Christie things, or you look at, I don't know, something that, people, here is not like the biggest hit, but has a cult following, you
Uh-huh.
know? Those
Midsummer Murders.
performances. Yes, Midsummer Murders, Happy Valley, like
Oh
one,
yeah.
like Inspector Morse, if you can ever find it. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
But
Inspector Morse.
like
Yeah.
people love those and
Uh-huh.
the acting is so flippin' brilliant,
Yeah.
Prime Suspect for God's sake,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
those performances are stellar and the money's like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's so interesting.
Yeah.
And people wonder why so many well-known British actors end up coming to Hollywood, and that's why, my
Uh-huh.
friends.
Just for money. No, but really, just a lot of the shows that I loved were here. It's funny because I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan, and I know that all the Marvel and Star Wars stuff they've gone to England now. So many productions have gone there that I'd be like, oh, I would like to work on that. I would like to, yeah, yes, please. I would. That sounds nice.
Are you
But
still
again,
local hire in England?
I have a UK agent. It's hard, I think, because I still write to British casting directors and I don't get the same sort of responses that I get here in America. I don't know. Just I don't know what
Interesting.
just England isn't my market because
It's very different there. It's the whole thing is different.
yeah,
I
baby
mean,
would still like to do Casualty on a Saturday night.
oh
Um
my God, absolutely. I mean, it's gone, but like, if the bill was still around, that would be
yeah,
mine.
because it
Oh
was a
my
rite
God,
of
I loved the bill.
passage.
Yes,
I
absolutely. It
came
was
out of
it
drama
was
school.
England's Law and Order.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And Casualty is its Grey's Anatomy. It's been going for,
absolutely.
nearly 40 years. And I tell my British agent, like, look, I'll come back for a Casualty. I don't care if I lose money. I'll come back because I've watched that since I was 8 years old on a
Yeah,
Saturday night. That was appointment viewing for me.
yeah.
I'll do it.
It's like a threat. I'll do it.
I'll do it.
Just
But
watch
I
me.
I think there was when I was going through drama school, there was just a different kind of mentality that I didn't really necessarily agree with. That our principal at the time would say like, you should be happy working in a black box theatre performing for 5 people a night on the Shetland Isles, and the art will sustain you. That sort of mentality. I don't think helps
No,
artists. That you should be struggling. That you should be.
no. I do think that if you do struggle, and we all do at some point,
Mhm.
the biggest names included, it does add to your appreciation of what you do. But I don't think that it's necessary in order
No.
for you to prove that you're a real artist. It's
Yeah, not at
not.
all. No, I don't agree with that adage that you should suffer or, that art comes out of this bleak desperation.
No, no, no. That's therapy comes out of the bleak desperation. Do
Uh-huh.
not. Tell me about your experience behind the camera.
I have always enjoyed writing. I take classes at a place called the BGB Studios in North Hollywood that's run by Risa Bremen Garcia. And they introduced a writing class, and I was like, great, because I've always loved writing, and I didn't understand structure. I didn't know, I had these grand ideas. And then I started taking these writing classes there, and it blew my mind. Once I was like, oh, okay, so this is an inciting incident, and then this term comes at around page 25, and this is the Act 1 break, and then, oh, okay, now we're getting into Act 2, and it's fun and games, and then, okay, this is what Act 3 entails. And then I wrote my first feature really fast out of the gate because I'd had a story running around my mind for so long. So I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And then I started writing another feature, and then I wrote a pilot, and another feature, and I was writing all these things. And so was everyone in the class. Everyone was sort of bolted out of the gates and were like, I wrote a feature film. And then we just didn't know what to do with them. We were like, I got this film, what do I do? And then our writing teacher at the time said, okay, everybody slow down. Everyone write a 10-page script, go away and film it. And that's what we all did. We wrote our little short films. I was working on Feud at the time, and I wrote this silly little idea with Alfred Molina in mind, and then very sheepishly approached him via Facebook Messenger, being like, "Hi, Alfred. Please ignore this if this is crossing a line. But I wrote this thing, and I'd love you to consider it." And then he left me on red. He read it and he didn't reply. And then I kept seeing him on set, and I was like, "Oh no." Oh no, he saw it, and he must have been so aghast that I'd asked. And then it was one of the last days on Feud, and I was like, "Hey, Alfred, I just want to say I'm so sorry for writing that message." He was like, "Oh my gosh, yes, you wrote that message. Of course I'll do it. Yes, of course." I was like, oh, "Okay." And then we went into pre-production on that, and then Alfred was doing a show. I think it was the Pasadena Playhouse. He was doing The Father, and we went to see him just like 2 weeks before we were supposed to shoot. And I was like, "Oh wow, that was great. We're very excited to have you on board. Like we got the location, we prepped." And he's like, "Great, just send me the script." He hadn't read the script, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, you do know that you're playing a dead version of yourself. You're like on a slab on a morgue for pretty much the whole film." And he's like, "Yeah, that's fine. I'm a bit of a whore when it comes to work." So yeah, he was game, and he was so fun and lovely. And I had a great producer, Natalie Britton, helped produce, and she was very much what I needed because I'm not a good negotiator in terms of I love creative producing and finding locations and what people will wear. But when it comes to going to a location and they're like, "Yes, it's going to be 6,500 for the day," I'd be like, "Oh yeah, great, that sounds nice, thank you so much." And Natalie would be very much the like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, hold on now. We'll give you 2,000 for the day and a 12 pack of beer." And they'd be like, "Okay, yeah, fair deal." Um, and she's exactly what I needed. And she acted as my first AD as well, and kept things really ticking. So yeah, it was a really fun, eye-opening experience, and I loved it so much. And I used that to then jump onto Ryan Murphy's director mentorship program, the Half Initiative, and then I shadowed on 911 for a while. And then, gosh, I don't know. I feel like I found myself a little trapped since then. I co-directed another short, and then I have another bunch of shorts that I wrote. And then I feel like people get into your ears a little bit and they say, like, "Well, hold on. You have two great shorts. So now you really want to consider, do you want to spend money on making a short, or do you really want to push one of your low budget feature films that you could raise maybe $150,000 and make a feature film, because that's going to take you further than doing five shorts?" And I don't know. Maybe I've
I do,
got,
these formulas that people have. I don't subscribe to them because first of all, it's different for everyone, and also it has been known that people have submitted a fantastic short film that
yeah.
may be their fifth or tenth to a festival
Hmm.
and won, and then because of that they get funding.
Yeah,
It can
it's
happen in any way, and if you find joy in creating in that way, why not continue to do
I
it?
know. I'm I keep getting paralyzed by I have one short that I wanted to do, and it's a logistical bear, and it involves a lot of special effects makeup, and it would be a real monster to shoot. But I'm like, oh, but that would cover so many quadrants of things that I I want to tackle. And
But it's not a monster to shoot, and I'll tell you why. It just needs the right group of people.
mhm,
That's the main thing. People think that, we all do this. We get ahead of ourselves. And it's like,
mhm,
no, if we pull in the exact right person, I mean, really the right producer, honestly, right?
uh-huh,
As you experienced yourself,
yeah.
you were just saying, you pull in the right person who knows the makeup artist to go to, who knows the FX guy to go to, who knows the editor to go to, and then there you go. You've got it.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's so funny what we do to ourselves as artists by, you know,
We get in our own
uh,
ways.
yeah, we do. We
We all do
do.
it. And it's so clear when you're looking at someone else, and then we'll turn around and I'll do it right. I'll do it to myself right after I get
Uh-huh.
off this recording. That's what we do. But I also think it's sort of what protects us a little bit sometimes
Hmm.
from going too far in the direction of being a little too impressed with ourselves, because that is also terrible.
Hmm.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So if you're going to be on one side of it, probably the more modest side is the
Yeah,
best to be
that's
on.
right. So I don't know. I definitely want to do I definitely want to do more because I just have scripts sort of piling and piling and piling and I just want to make things.
I say just listen, just keep reaching out to producers and be like, can you find me money for this? And have them be on it. And when they do
Uh-huh.
find the money, you do it. And then you move on to the next one.
That's the spirit.
Just keep doing
I
them.
know, look at us talking about like writing all these things, and we're here at the blank, and they've got the young playwrights festivals, and there's like 8-year-olds that are like, I wrote this thing, and then
Yeah, and
they
God,
get it
isn't it
made.
so funny? It's so funny that when we are younger, we're like, yeah, I'm just going to do this thing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be 50 in 2 weeks. And if you said to me now, why don't you move to a new city
Hmm.
and, sleep on the floor and not be able to afford furniture for several
Uh-huh.
weeks and work in a restaurant and, try a new place, I'd be like, you must be outside of your
Yeah.
mind.
Uh-huh.
But, when you're young, you're like, yeah, that's cool. I can do it. I can figure it out.
Yeah. I look back on myself now. I moved here when I was 25, and the first place I lived at, I moved here with just my suitcase and my laptop, and I stayed in the Sportsman's Lodge for 3 days on Ventura Boulevard, and
Oh my
um,
God.
jumped on Craigslist and was like, I guess I've got to find somewhere to live. And the first place wasn't too bad. It was way overpriced. And it wasn't until I was in acting class with other people that I was like, oh yeah, I've got this place in North Hollywood, and I've got this room in a house, and it's $950 a month. And they'd be like, what? I have a studio for nine. And then I was like, oh no, have I been scammed? And then I got whiplash because the second place I moved into was 450 a month. And that was a room, but there were like 12 people living in this sort of, I don't know how to describe it, like a compound. And it was terrible, and the windows were broken, and nothing worked, and there was like rope holding the oven door together. And I was taking the bus down to ArcLight, the 183 down Magnolia Boulevard to work at ArcLight, and walking home at 2 in the morning. And just to, save up to get your green card, and you do whatever
Yeah.
it takes to do it and make it work. And I was like, well, I'm not going to get a car. I'm like, I can't afford a car. I'm going to use the buses. And then I get an audition down at 2701 Ocean Park Boulevard, and getting there from North Hollywood and be like, okay, so it's the red line to Hollywood and Highland, and then the 217 down to Fairfax, and then the, the
Listen, I love them, but dear God, getting there is even in your own car is
uh-huh.
just like if you don't live in Santa Monica or
Oh,
Culver
it was a
City or
day.
something close. Oh
It
my
was a whole
God.
day. It would be, you'd take 3.5 hours getting to this audition, and then you get in there, and they'd be like, "So you're just going to pretend to sleep on a park bench? No snoring, nothing big. You're just going to like just twitch. That's it. Great. Thanks so much." I spent 3.5 hours going back, and I was like, "That was a day. I spent a day going to do that." Um, but we do it because we love it.
Absolutely. I think that that should be what people should say instead of you should be happy in a black box, performing to five people. It should be you need to put your love into the little nuances and difficulties of creating what you want, because it's not always pleasant, like
Hmm.
always appreciate the fact that you get to do something that involves your art. I think might
Yeah.
be what they're trying to say, but it doesn't come out that way. But
No,
that's
you're
the thing.
right. Yeah, and I know there's been a lot of discussion about, we talked just before we started recording about, I had my first in-person theatrical audition in 5 years last week, and it was mind-blowing. And I know a lot of people don't like the self-tape process,
Hate it.
because sometimes you feel like you're firing shots out into the dark. But I tell people too, like, we've got to find a way to love it, and we've got to find a way to
Just got to get it done.
you've got to find the joy in setting up the camera and taking that pressure off yourself and saying like, hey, you know what? I'm going to give them what I want to give them because no one's giving me anything. And so this is my representation of the role. This is what I would do if I booked it, and letting it go and finding the joy in that.
I mean, that is a very good lesson, because I lucked into having a coach when I first moved to LA who always said, listen, no matter what you're auditioning for, unless it's like on stage or a film or a commercial, if it's for television, you could end up playing that role for the next 10 years.
Mhm.
So make it what you want it to be because they don't know what they want.
Yeah.
And once I really sat in that, I don't give people what they want. And there are actually auditions that I'll turn away because I'm like, I know exactly who they want. I
Uh-huh.
can do it. I don't want to. I don't
Yeah.
want to. I don't want to
Uh-huh.
be that person. And if I do it, if I do the audition, it's not going to be what they want,
Hmm.
And sometimes I'll still do it because my people want me to. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it the way I want to do it.
Yeah, that's how I approach it now too. It was a flash. It was David Rappaport's office, and I went in there for that. And on paper, I was very much not what they were looking for at all. And when I walked into the audition room, it's a CW show, and everyone was handsome and chiseled jaw and designer stubble, and it's me in like shorts and t-shirt. I'm like, oh no, oh dear. And I went in and there was like a switch that went off in my head that was like, well, I'm here and I'm gonna have fun with this then because I'm not what they're looking for. And then I booked it because I
Hmm.
guess I just gave them something
Good. Something
radically
good
different.
and
Yeah, different.
I have casting directors who literally will say to me, sometimes I just call you in because I need fresh air because I
Uh-huh.
never do it the way that they think it's going to happen. And
Yeah.
that for me is fun because it's more authentic to the way I am, which is just kind of strange and quirky. And I feel like when they get an actor like you who's really good and you come in and you listen, all those guys that look the same in that audition room did the exact same thing when they walked into that room. They had seen
Hmm.
that performance 30 times before you walked in. So the fact that you walked in and they were like, ooh, oh, I like this.
Oh, shorts, shorts and a tee. Okay.
It's different.
Uh-huh. Uh,
That works, give them some.
yeah.
Because, I mean, it's true that, I mean, a lot of the time they don't know what they want.
Yeah. Mhm.
So trying to guess is fruitless.
Yeah, I don't do it anymore. I used to second guess myself and come away from auditions and be like,
Yeah.
I shoulda, woulda, coulda. And now I go in and I do what I want to do. Well, I don't go in. I set it up in my living room. I've got the screen here and I do what I want to do and send it off. And then my fiance and I just have the ritual of tearing up the sides and letting it go. And
Yep.
if we get a call back, we reprint them and that's okay.
Yeah, I very rarely think about things again after it's done because there's no point.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes an audition comes along that I get attached to, and you're like, oh,
Hmm. I said rarely.
oh, oh,
Yeah. Yeah, there
oh,
definitely are roles where I'm like, I really want to work, and it's sometimes it's the role itself, sometimes it's the actual show or film, sometimes it's the
yeah,
person directing or an
uh-huh,
actor I really want to work with.
yes. So there are still some that come on, but by and large, 90% of the time, I can be like, I did what I wanted. Let's
Yeah.
put it to bed.
Well, because it's out of your hands at that point.
Hmm.
There's really
Yeah.
nothing you can do. So, and odds are they enjoyed it, whether you got the role or not.
Hmm. Now
Odds are they enjoyed it.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Being British, do you, 'cause sometimes I'll do this, I'll get an audition and I'll read it and it feels better as British in my mouth. And I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this in British. And that's the only
So,
version I'm going to give them. Sometimes I'll give them an American and a British, unless specifically states like, he's the son of the owner of the hospital and he
right.
comes from Milwaukee. And I'll be like, okay, all right, fine. I'm just curious how you
Yeah.
approach that.
So I'm not British. I'm Nigerian. I went to boarding
Oh, I'm
school in
so sorry.
England. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But I do it a lot, but I will usually, there have been times where I'm like, I'm not doing it in another accent, but usually I will send them both
Hmm.
and I will leave it up to my reps. I send it to my reps, and
Right.
between my manager and my agent, they will decide whether they want to send them a choice or not
Hmm.
because they really know. And a lot of times they will send both
Yeah,
because,
mine do too.
again, the casting director is gonna know, and if you give them something new, a lot of the times they're like, oh, when I booked Castle, I actually did the entire audition process in an American accent, and I
Uh-huh.
got to set, and they were like, oh, by the way, we don't want the accent. And I was like, oh,
Oh,
okay. They were like, yeah, we've made the character British. I was like, oh, great. Oh, all right. So
yeah.
it's
Yeah, I've done auditions where the casting directors know me and I've gone in and I've done it in American because I was like, okay, well, like he's working in a comic book store in this small town, so he's not going to be British, and then done the work and then left the room, and then I think it was Marin and Dorian Frankel chased me down in the parking lot, was like, come back, they want to see it in British, come back, come back. Um, and yeah, it's a fun I think it's a fun little tool that
yeah.
an extra take, don't mind if I do.
Okay, sure, why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah,
Yeah, and with voiceover, like I'll send in 17 accents. I don't even care. I'm like, here you
yeah,
go.
yeah,
Figure out what
yeah.
you like.
Uh-huh.
And it's also fun. That's part of the fun of it for me, is like, I'm going to try it a different way. And if they don't want it, that's fine. But at least I got to play around.
Yeah, if I look at something like, oh, an art dealer, an art dealer can be yes, he's a British art dealer. Don't mind if I do. Yeah, I love playing around with that kind of stuff and accents and dialects. Are like, yes, please.
Yeah. Well, and it's like you were saying about Alfred Molina, where he's like, I like to work, I like to play.
I
Like
love
that, like
work.
beautiful. It's beautiful that someone of his caliber and at his level would be like, yeah, I want to play around with this. This sounds fantastic, and
Yeah.
it's short, so like it's not going to take a lot of time. Let's do this.
Yeah, I think that was a lesson for me too, was asking people that you work with whose work you admire, sort of mentally
Yeah.
cataloging them and being like, oh, okay, I would love to write something for them and I would love to be able to ask them if they would come on board and do maybe a short. Or I wrote my last feature sort of with a producer hat on in terms of like, okay, what will I have access to? Okay, so again, a house. And then by the nature of this story, it's a lot of people sort of coming in and out of the story, and I'd be like, great. So then I would need that person for 2 days, and I could ask so and so if they would come in for 2 days, and I can ask so and so if they would come in for a day, and I can ask this person to try and yeah, produce a hat.
Yeah, but that's part of the fun too. And it's fun to pull in people that you've worked with before, you want to work with,
Yeah,
or you have seen on stage or in something, and you're like, God, they're brilliant. It's
yeah.
so much
I used
fun.
to be so scared. Like I said, I approached Alfred by a Facebook Messenger and was so sheepish in my message, like, don't worry about it. It's okay if you don't want to do it. Like, I completely understand. And now I feel like I've sort of switched into like, no, I'm going to ask them, because if they say no, they say no, and that's perfectly fine. But I'll try and make it easier for them, and I'll sort of I can approach them and say, hey, do you want to do this? It's 2 days. Here's the script. Here's the role. We'll match your pay with a charitable contribution to a charity of your choice, and come and play with us for 2 days. And
Amazing.
ask,
I love how you say that you sheepishly asked him in a Facebook message, because that's very ballsy to approach Alfred Molina at all.
I
Like it
mean,
still took a lot of courage.
yeah, but he was, when you work with people on set who are genuinely warm and open and ebullient and friendly, and we'd sit there and we'd talk about Heinz beans and HP sauce and like the food that we miss, and it was easy, and there was no wall there, and he was just so warm and open, and just when you meet
Mm.
those kind of actors on set is so wonderful, because it's not always the case. I think
It's true.
I'd had experiences where some of my first jobs in LA, you get there and you're sort of expected to just sort of sit in your chair in the corner and you don't talk to the 1 through 7 on the call sheet. And it took me a long time to sort of break out of that sort of mentality of making myself small as well,
Hmm.
because I come away being like, oh, like, oh,
It's icky.
it didn't feel good. I just asked someone where in England they were from when I heard a Mancunian accent, and then they moved my cast chair to the other side of the building in a room on its own, and then a PA would be like, "You don't talk to them." I'm like, "Oh no."
That, I've spoken about this a few times on this show. That is, it's not just that, you've changed that with yourself. It's that the landscape has changed. People don't there are fewer of those people now.
Hmm.
People tend to be kinder and more inclusive. And it's honestly, it's a smart thing to do because it's your show and you want it to be good, right? So if you want it to be good, all the
Yeah.
actors should feel comfortable and feel like they
Hmm.
belong.
Yeah. 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 Um, they're the best sets when they're open. Like I was saying with Jonathan Frakes and Star Trek, they made it so warm and so welcoming, and um, it is where you do your best. It's where I do my best work. I don't
Yeah.
respond to yelling and threats and
No. No, and I think that maybe that's another thing. Maybe there have been more international people coming in who are like, what? Because
uh-huh.
I remember when I first came to university here and I was on the swimming team, and I had this coach that was constantly screaming at me and
Hmm.
constantly threatening me. Well, if you go home to Nigeria for 3 weeks, we're going to kick you off the team. And I was like, okay, like,
Uh-huh.
fine. Like,
Yeah.
it's Nigeria. I'm not like driving to Connecticut for God's sake.
Uh-huh.
So like that, I don't respond to that either. Like I don't, that's not motivating for me.
No, it's not for me either. And I have grown as a person and a human, and now I won't stand for that. I did have an experience maybe 3, 4 years ago now where it was that kind of atmosphere with another actor, and I didn't call I publicly vocalized like, oh, okay, it's one of those sets, and then all of a sudden everyone was like, oh no, 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 it's not. We're not. Hi, no, we're
Mm-hmm.
uh-huh. And it's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
We're so lucky. I say this every time we're talking about this on the show. We're so lucky to be able to do what we do
yeah.
and do it for money, and
Mhm.
we should all be having fun. It would be my nightmare to know that I made someone's one day on set on a show terrible. That
Yeah,
would be my nightmare.
yeah. Especially, I mean, yes, for anyone, but especially someone just coming into
Oh.
the industry on your first co-star or your first day on set, on your first like, no,
No, let's
no,
not do
thank
that
you.
to each other. I mean, in the world in general, let's not do that to each other.
Yeah.
Like, let's not make each other feel small.
Hmm.
That's just a sign of insecurity, honestly. It's
Yeah.
no, it's no good. Okay, talk to me about your experience at the Blank Theatre.
Oh boy, it's always a lovely time. The first time I played a British bear called Columbus in a little production called Bear in Mind, and I was this girl's sort of imaginary bear minder who would sort of not really a guardian angel on her shoulder, just Columbus the bear who'd be there to, support her and be like,
Mhm.
hello. Yeah, let's cheer up. What are we going to do tonight? Yeah, that sounds like fun. And then she sort of starts entering the world of dating, and it'd be like, okay, all right, Anham, let's look at the facts. Let's look what's going on. And I think the wardrobe designer at that time was Michael Mullen, and I was in a bear costume and huge furry feet and the ears and the nose and a big bow tie, and I had a grand old time. It was delightful, and that was the first time that I'd done stage in so long. I hadn't done any stage since I'd been in England, and then I came to LA, which is so sort of television and film focused, which I love, and that's sort of the drive of what brought me out here. I also hunger for being on stage and live audiences and working with other people in the rehearsal process. And again, when it's young writers and it's something that they're seeing for the first time, and you're bringing something to life from a child's imagination,
Yeah.
uh, and that's also what I love is, we were just talking about like, oh, I've written these things and I don't know how to do it. And I'm making it small and putting my producer's hat on. Like, how can I do it? And these writers are writing pieces that are like, it's a musical and it spans time and there's an ocean of ocean animals and they all have lines. And And then actors come in and they do it. And firstly, that's the magic of theater, but also, the power of imagination. And also, I'd encourage. I've gotten trapped in this before where my reps have approached me and been like, hey, there's this audition for this theater piece, and it's going to run for 6 months, 6 to 8 months, and it might get extended, it might be a year. And then my brain goes, oh gosh, oh gosh. Oh gosh, am I going to do theater for a year? Oh gosh, I'm scared of that. And then, there's the blank theater and it's a 2 week process and then you put it on for 4 days and you get the thrill of doing theater and it's nice to have something like that, a vehicle in LA to do that
Mhm.
where if you're scared, like I am, of getting sort of pulled to do theatre for an extended period of time, then that's also golden too.
It is. And like you said, it's really nice to be. I mean, for many of these kids, we are the first experience they've ever had, and it's a very professional experience. They get a
Hmm.
professional director and they're on, they've got professional actors and I mean that I wonder how many kids ended up in the festival who didn't realize that it was possible to actually do this for their entire life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
very
And that's
validating.
I've hosted a couple of times at the Blank in the years that I've not been able to give my time for an extended period, and I'll always say, the young writers that are there doing these pieces. They are the writers and the showrunners of
Yeah.
the shows that are going to be coming out in 10, 15 years' time. They are the people that are going to be on sets. They're going to be in the writers' room. They're going to be making their own projects. That they are the voices of tomorrow. And I always love working with new writers and new people. And I'll still jump on Actors Access and look at AFI thesis films and be like, "Oh, what's going on? Oh, Western, don't mind if I do submit to that." Yeah, yeah,
Well, I mean, those AFI films have fantastic budgets.
they do, and they get all the camera equipment, and they have
I've
awesome.
done a couple
Me
myself.
too. I love it. I
Yeah.
and working with new people and with people with new ideas, and I think that's what the blank is all about too. And from a personal point of view, I've met so many other artists at the blank too who I've become great friends with. I'm friends with Catherine McNamara now from doing Bear in Mind and Lenny James and all these. Sorry, Lenny Jacobs. I'm so sorry.
I knew who you
Womp
meant.
womp.
I knew
Um,
you meant.
and so then it becomes a community and a family and seeing each other and supporting each other's work and it's so great.
It really is. It's a very special community, and we do something very, I mean, like, listen, we're not superstars or celebrities, but we are working actors who have worked on very good shows. And for like, can you imagine, like a 15-year-old from like the middle of like Ohio somewhere who comes and then looks at like our resume and is like, oh my God, this
Uh,
person's going to be saying my words. Like, that must be so fantastic for them.
yeah.
It just, I think it's such an important thing, and I think it's so wonderful that there are so many actors and directors who just do it because they love doing it. It's
Mhm.
so important.
And to spring back to what we were talking about, it's a wonderful environment where
Yes.
people want to be there and it's warm and creative and fun. And, we treat the work with the utmost respect, but it's light and it's playful and we explore and we
Hmm.
communicate with the writers and be like, what is your vision? What do
Yeah,
you want to see out of the character? And so it feels so collaborative
yeah,
in that way that it's so special. I can't think of anything else that I've done in LA that is quite like it.
absolutely. I totally agree. And I don't know if this happens for you, but every time I do one, I also am reminded. I mean, not that I actually ever forget, but it comes to the forefront of my mind. Oh, this is why I do this. This is why I
Hmm.
love acting. It's a
Yeah,
good reminder.
yeah, I love it all. This year we did a play called Red Letter Eulogy, and they reached out and the the casting god had sort of changed from Erica and Cara to Alexa, and they reached out and was like, it's a musical. And my first instinct was like, oh no. And then, a couple of minutes later, I was like, yeah, but I haven't done one for a while. Gosh, I haven't done a musical since I did Anything Goes at the Stoke Regent Theatre. Yes, let's do it. And it's one of those things where you get to do things like that, the AFI shorts, things that you wouldn't normally get to do, things that casting might not bring you in for, things that you might not get considered for. So I was like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll go. And I was scared, like going in there, and then Perry's on the piano being like, here we go. I'm like, okay. But again, a wonderful, such a great experience because I hadn't had those sort of nerves before for a long, long time of standing in the wings being like, oh, gotta come in on the right bar, gotta come in on the right note, gotta do this. But it's exciting and I love it. And
Yeah.
and you're right, there's nothing quite like it. And this is why we do it.
Yeah. It's so good. I don't get those light ones. I get the ones where like I'm crying through the entire thing.
You do.
But yeah.
But that
Yeah.
again, isn't that it's
Very
so
cathartic.
wonderful. I mean, Red Letter Eulogy was pretty heavy in its own way,
Right.
too. But that's the other great thing about all these plays. It's they run the spectrum of. Sometimes I watch those plays and I can't believe that they've been written by a 12, 13, 14-year old. And but
Same,
I
same.
mean, and then on the flip side, like, oh, I can because we're dealing with violence in schools and school shootings and death and like, oh yeah, yeah, I get it. Of course I do.
But the
They ru-
talent, the raw talent.
yeah, they run the gambit of comedy and farce and spectacle and drama and tragedy and sometimes within a single play, sometimes within,
Yeah.
a one act. And it threads that needle. And that's a gift for actors too, to be able to play with that.
Yeah, it's so true. It's a special place. I think we're
Hmm.
all lucky that we ended up in this little, well, it's not that little,
Yeah.
medium-sized family.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that will jump at the chance to be like, yep, I'm
Yeah.
free. What's my
Yeah.
July look like? Yep, I can do weekend
Yeah.
3 and I can do weekend 4. Let's go.
Let's do it. Amazing. Well, we've been talking for almost an hour,
Oh
believe it or
gosh.
not. This was a fun one. Thank you so much for joining us, Dominic.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure. Because we haven't spoken before. And
No,
so
I don't think we have. I think
yeah,
we've been in like,
sailed like
different
ships in the night.
weekends.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So it's a real pleasure to get to talk to you too.
Yeah, this has been great. And for everyone listening, thank you so much for joining us. Please do go out and find that thing that you love to do today, something that's going to make you happy and feel fulfilled. And we will see you next time.